Well, hey, it's Wes.
Mail call!
And it's time for some mail. A week or two ago, I got this package in the mail. Now I'm going to pretend to unbox it for you, just as it was. What do we have here? It is the relatively new FlashQ Q20. In black. We'll set that aside for now. So what is this? Let me tell you one thing, and the most important thing to know about this, it is tiny. This is a flash, and on their website and the packaging they say it's designed for small and light mirrorless cameras. So I decided to give it a test on my a6000, not on the A9 or A7 Mark II, because it is designed for teeny tiny cameras. Now here on the FlashQ, you can see that it has a whole bunch of buttons, some LEDs, and everything is very small. And we'll get back to that in a few minutes. And so this flash has a few modes. Slave 1, Slave 2, a modeling light mode, and just regular flash mode. Say cheese. So, what's actually interesting about this thing, and why am I actually going to talk about it? Is there anything special? I've talked about a lot of flashes in the past. It's one of my favorites right here, the 860 Mark II. Take a look at this. This is rated for a guide number 20. This is rated for guide number 60. This is more than 3 times the size. So why would I ever use this? Now me myself, I'm probably not going to use something like this an awful lot, except for personal use. Because this thing is tiny, and if I want to pack light, if I want to do something with family, it is tiny. And as I just showed you a second ago, it even bounces. When I first looked at it, I was like, oh, there's no joint in this. Nope, it bounces. It's got a little bounce. Whoop. But what is special about this? There are other small flashes. You can get special email flashes that are pretty tiny. It's all in the foot. Boop. The foot of this flash is actually a wireless transmitter that can be docked into the flash. So now, all of a sudden, I have a flash that's actually a wireless flash, just with this neat little nubbin right here. How well does this work, you might ask? Well, I'm going to set this little guy right here, and I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go over to the living room, go through a couple walls, go in the hallway. Seems to work. Almost to the living room. Yep. Now I'm in the living room. This flash is powered by a teeny tiny, well, the transmitter is powered by this teeny tiny little watch battery type thing. I might as well just pop it out for you right now. Look at that. It is minuscule. Why on earth does this thing take 2 AA batteries when, according to the FlashQ website, this guy can fire off, I think they said 100,000 shots on one battery. That seems preposterous to me, and obviously I was unable to test that, although it hasn't died on me yet, and I've shot a few hundred shots with it. Nothing terribly interesting. I'll show you some pictures sprinkled through here. So anyway, what's the advantage of this? Well, as a professional photographer, I've gotten used to bouncing flash, I've gotten used to off-camera flash, and so when I'm in smaller family situations, I don't really like to get out the big equipment. I like to be discreet. I just want to be a part of what's going on in life. I can just take this little guy, set it over here, and create slightly more interesting photos. Just gotta restart this. And so that brings me to my next point. Although the idea behind this is fantastic, the very thing that makes this special is the same thing that makes this super annoying. The buttons on the back are small, the lights are small, the mode switch, instead of a different light or a different indicator for each one, it's just this tiny little LED, and I don't even know what half those colors really mean. Yes, it does optical slave, which most flashes do, but I found it to be a bit of a usability nightmare. Okay, I'm exaggerating. Obviously, I've got it to work. I would just like it to be easier to use, but at the same time, I don't know how it would be easier to use, because not only is this tiny, this is cheap. This little guy here is $89 or $90. For wireless, modular functionality, that is an amazing price. And when I do have it set up to work, it works fantastically. It even works better in some ways than lights that I already have that cost way more. This is the Godox 8200. You've heard me talk about it before. Let's turn it on. Number one, as with many people's 8200s, my screen is shattered because it is very heavy and very easy to fall over and break. But just for a second here, I'm going to turn on the modeling light. There we go, look at all those LEDs. So powerful. This little guy here, believe it or not, has a modeling light mode. And believe it or not, further still, it is as good or better than the one inside this reasonably expensive, although reasonably priced, 8200. And so, boop! That works amazingly well for a super cheap, teeny tiny little flash. You can set the brightness of the modeling light, you can turn it off. On top of that, you can adjust the flash output with these teeny tiny little buttons. Once again, these buttons are teeny tiny, and it's really hard to tell which one does which. But why? Can't I just remember that this one's the power button and this one is the test button? Not necessarily. Here's another package. Another amazing functionality of these flashes is you can get these extra little modules to mount other flashes on. But if we closely observe the buttons on it, you'll have to observe this very closely, they're reversed. The power and test buttons are reversed between the transmitter and the receiver. So yeah, I am going to continue to be confused about which button is which for a long time. On this little receiver guy, you have a sync port that you can use to fire a flash that doesn't necessarily take this hot shoe. Although I have a Sony multi-interface shoe on this flash, I can just stick that in there and then plug it into, I think I got a wire here. Hang with it somewhere. Just a second here. I just take this wire on the side of the hot shoe, get in there, and then I just plug it into, I just plug it in, maybe I'll use a different flash. So I'll just take this wire with this PC sync cable, and I'll plug it into, Alright, so there's no way for me to use this. And that brings me to the next downside of this amazing little tiny guy. Tiny little super guy? Trademark. I'm sorry, don't sue me. This is designed for mirrorless cameras. Sony occupies a large chunk of the mirrorless market. These receivers don't work with any of the Sony flashes that I have, or Sony compatible flashes. This little transmitter is just a generic hot shoe that, I mean, it works for me, but I scraped out the hot shoe of my a6000 to make it work better with Youngneo flashes. So I don't know if this actually would be working properly had I not, but that's an easy enough thing for most people to do. So, after watching this video, I hope you are confused. Because I'm confused. I cannot decide whether this flash is revolutionary and amazing and mind-bogglingly impressive, or utterly disappointing. I think it's mostly the first one, and it just takes some getting used to, because this is a whole different dynamic. I don't have screens and LCD displays and giant rechargeable batteries. I just have two little AA batteries and a watch battery powering this miniature little contraption. It's pretty fantastic. And I hear that FlashQ is going to be coming out with some new products in the future. So, this being their first major foray into the camera/off-camera lighting, I'm impressed. Although, I'm mostly looking forward to whatever else they have coming out next. There's a tripod socket on the bottom of this thing. This doesn't have a tripod socket. This does. But it looks like I ate 4 of these for breakfast. So anyway, there's a link in the description if you want to buy one. I get absolutely nothing except a sense of satisfaction. Well, you do. I'm gonna have a little fun with Flash. I forgot to turn it on. That should have been obvious. There's tons of blinking lights on this thing. Now go take some photos! Well, hey! It's Wes! Alright, I was gonna tell you to do that right after I said that. I think I might.
After that? Right after that?
Yeah. But hey! It's Wes!
Mail call!
It's time for some mail!